Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Hey, welcome to the ultimate Cleveland sports show.
Can you hear me now?
Can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
I hear a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
You got
Can
it?
you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, very good.
Is that you?
Hey, have you heard the Joe Flacco news?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh. Here we go.
The great divider is back.
Oh, listen, we back. Listen, thank you, Cleveland Browns. You guys give us storylines every year.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
We get the best storylines here, don't we?
It's amazing. They signed him for $4 million. It's a bargain, I think. Today's backup quarterback prices.
Free money.
Coffee down.
Sorry, did I get you?
We're gonna get into that. Our thoughts on that. How many quarterbacks are you going to carry on the roster? There is at least one yet to be drafted Cleveland Browns quarterback.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am absolutely certain that somewhere in this draft the Browns will call a quarterback's name.
I tend to agree with you, but
I
not
will
certain.
bet the house on that one.
Woo! That's a good house. I might take that bet.
It's a house. We'll talk about that. A lot to get to, a lot of different angles really about this. First of all, we'll get thoughts on Flacco's return. Also, the Cavs lose a game last night that really didn't matter. It was, to me, I watched it like a preseason game. Nothing to see here. Guardians did what they were supposed to do. They swept a very, very bad baseball team.
Yeah.
I left off a couple of varies. Oh, my goodness. It is, and they have very bad luck, as we saw in.
They have two legitimate hitters.
That's it.
Two.
And as we know,
actually 1.5.
When you do have major holes in the lineup, you just pitch around the hitters they have.
Yeah.
They're not going to, and it's a safe bet you're going to win. Ooh, that's a rough. They're in worse shape than the Cleveland Browns are.
Oh my God.
I was thinking that yesterday when I was watching them. Who would I rather be, the Browns or the White Sox? I can't believe I'm saying this, but the White Sox are in worse shape.
I probably would tend to agree with that.
It's awful.
Do they even have fan base?
They used to.
I don't even know.
They won a World Series
in this century, right?
Yeah.
But it just I just don't see the cries from their faithful home.
I do think they could move.
Yeah, that's why I was getting at.
Yeah. Oh, you mean leave Chicago?
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
I do too. Southside has never really supported them in normal years. When they win, the fans will come out.
Yeah.
But the problem is they don't win enough. I got to tell you, it's not for a lack of trying. In the last, not now, it looks like they've waved the white flag. But previously they had some pieces on that roster.
They had talent. They should have been better than what they were.
They underachieved.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being the Mets in New York. And right now, the Mets are obviously relevant because they're spending money.
Yeah.
But for years, they've always been the stepchild.
Right.
And the White Sox are absolutely the stepchild. There are markets in the United States, emerging markets, Nashville, Vegas, Charlotte.
Portland.
Yep. That would love to have a baseball team.
Montreal. I wouldn't rule out Montreal getting a team back. Yeah, you would?
I wouldn't rule it out, but I would put them behind the Charlotte and the Memphis.
There's teams in front of them, but
can you put one in Mexico? Would that work?
I doubt it. I don't think you could.
Given our political,
I don't even think it's that. I just think that the cost for the ticket, the fans, they have baseball there. They've got a Mexican league, and it's well attended, but the tickets are very, very inexpensive. So I don't know how that would work. Maybe in Mexico City, where you've got a large enough population base. Who knows? A lot to get into. Mike, what's going on behind the glass today? Anything big?
No, we're doing good this morning. Busy day in the sports world. We came in, did not expect to have this Flacco news, so that's always a fun way to start off a Friday. And let's dive right into things, guys, because we got a lot to talk about and only 87 minutes on YouTube. Then we head over to KYC at 12:30 for some never-before-seen content. So let's dive into it.
There it
but
is.
after a word from FanDuel, the NBA playoffs are almost here, guys. Tip-off for the NBA playoffs is coming up in just a few days. And FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place a $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Don't miss out. Head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and claim your $250 in bonus bets. Now we have a winning FanDuel ticket today from our guy Joshua Heisler, who sends us in winning tickets all the time. He had a multi-sport same-day game parlay with the money lines. He had the Tigers, the Guardians, the Grizzlies, the Pacers, the Cavs, the Celtics, and the Royals. He bet $15, won $157.81. So shout out to Joshua Heisler for winning our FanDuel ticket of the day. If you have winning tickets, make sure you send them in so we can feature them here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. But guys, we start with the big news this morning. Joe Flacco is black. Flaccovelli. Flacco fever.
Wait, he's black? I thought he was white.
I said back. Did I say black?
I don't know. Jason and I both looked at each other and was like, wow, that is breaking
Well,
news.
Joe Flacco is not black, but he is back
Blackabelly.
in Cleveland. G. Bush, after you and I had discussed the potential of Joe Flacco returning, Steve Becker sent us a group number about the Flacco signing, and then Tyvis sent us a group text about the Flacco signing. Then an hour later, G. Bush chimed in and said, did y'all see this Flacco-Velli's back? So, G, as the last one to chime in on the group chat, I give you the microphone first on the show. Thoughts
He also
on Joe
just sent us
Flacco
a text,
being
Lindbergh
back?
made it. I don't know what that means, but
I had one cooked up that said Amelia Earhart went missing. Listen, Joe Flacco's back in the mix, man. Listen, I like it. I'm excited, man. Here's what I'll say. I think this means Travis Hunter is the guy at 2. And I'm excited for one fact, is because I think that Kevin Stefanski is going to happily go right back to what he does preferably. He is like, forget all that shotgun stuff, forget all that other stuff. We're going to practice our quarterbacks turning their backs to the defense 75% of the time.
I applaud that.
And now it sets yourself up where even if you do get a Travis Hunter, you know what I like about this the most is we know one thing about Joe Flacco. He may throw you the ball a few times, but he ain't got no problem throwing it downfield. So if you worried about Travis Hunter getting involved, and Jerry Jeudy should be the most excited man in the world because under Jameis Winston, who's another guy that throws the ball down the field, he thrived. So now, and it kind of makes sense. And I don't want to think that they told Myles Garrett this, but I mean, would you be kind of excited if you say, hey, listen, man, and Myles, look, we might should have brought Joe back last year. We tripped a little bit. We brought him back this year, and we're going to get you another young quarterback. So, listen, remember, you had a pretty good time on a Thursday night. Remember that? He's like, all right, I get that. So, I like it. And plus what it did, and this was savvy too. I was like, you got to give your fan base hope. Jason, you talk about it, they don't really prefer any of these guys in this draft, and they said they're not going to force it. So if they're not going to force it and they don't really believe in it, they can still draft another guy or move back into the second round or do whatever they're going to do at quarterback. But they gave the Browns fans a familiar face, and this was cheap political points that they just scored because 75% of the fan base is nostalgic. They'll go right back to the time they had a couple of years ago, and guess what? The Browns fans will be elated about it. I don't know if he's going to start all 17 games. He played pretty bad last year, but people don't care about that.
I'll take the under on that.
People don't care about that. They just want to remember what they want to remember. And in the moment, the Browns did something that some people would be excited about.
There was one thing that happened more recently that Browns fans might be concerned about, and that was the playoff game against Houston.
Yes, yeah, they forgot about that too.
We had this magical, written by Hollywood's most creative storytellers, 5-game stretch at the end of the 23 season. Mm-hmm. It was nothing short of magical. I'd never seen anything like it. This guy was on the couch and jumped off the couch, put his Superman cape on, and flew the Browns to the playoffs. And then promptly threw the ball to Houston as much as he possibly could.
3 to 4 times.
Yeah, so that was disappointing. There's a lot of good about this and there's a lot of bad. Also on the good, you mentioned Jerry Jeudy's going to be happy. We just got an all-pro tight end back.
Yeah.
In David Njoku.
Yep.
Who absolutely, that was, his cheat code was unlocked when Joe Flacco was here. That is the David Njoku that we have been waiting for 7 years. There he is. There he is. He's an all-pro tight end, at least a Pro Bowl tight end. So I like that. Obviously, he's 40. So there's that.
You went to high school with him?
Yeah. He was a grade ahead of me.
Right.
I did some number searching though. And numbers, you can tell whatever story you want with numbers. That's why I know the people that scream analytics, analytics, analytics. Well, you give me a stat that supports something, and I guarantee you I will find a stat that tears that down. That's the way numbers work. But these are the numbers as they are. In 11 starts over the last 2 years, he's thrown 25 touchdowns, and he's averaging 260 yards per game. Those are numbers that we haven't seen in this town since briefly Baker Mayfield. But prior to that, I don't know, Bernie Kosar? I don't know how far back you got to go. Obviously, the good, the bad. Let me give you an analytic that says, okay, that's great. He threw 15 interceptions in those 11 starts. His teams were 6-5 during those 11 starts. So here's what I look at this move as. You can't go 3 wins again. You can't do it. It's impossible. You're trying to build a stadium. You need public support. You need government support. You better show that you know what you're doing. And 3-14 doesn't show you know what you're doing. If you're asking for hundreds of millions of dollars, in actuality billions of dollars, you better pony up with some acumen on the football field. Joe Flacco gives you the adult in the room. He gives you the mature quarterback that can at least bring legitimacy back to the program if he stays healthy. That's the biggest if. I don't know if he can at 40 years old. He's big, he's sturdy. Somebody texted me something early this morning that said, very similar style, size as Will Howard. Does that start you thinking down the road? John Gruden made his case that why is Will Howard not the number one quarterback in this draft?
Hey, man, listen, I'm glad to see you as an executive producer of that little short he did.
I wish I could have. First of all, that was the best thing he's ever done in his career, and I'm really glad that Barstool's brought it back. I love those quarterback lab segments.
He did a great job. Two more since the Will Howard one.
Yeah.
He asked the same question, why isn't this guy the number one pick? And
yeah.
In all 3 of them so far. So
however,
take it with a little grain of salt.
I love the way he framed it. You're 6'5", 237.
Same size as Josh Allen.
What was Josh Allen coming out of college? You won the national championship. Why are you 6th on these? And it's a great question to ask. And I don't know that Will Howard gave the exact right answer that I wanted to hear, but I'm not saying they're going to draft Will Howard because they have Joe Flacco in the mix. What I'm saying is this buys them time. If they don't find their quarterback in this year's draft, maybe he's in next year's draft and they have a shot to do it all over again. Overall, though, if I had to grade the move a thumbs up or a thumbs down, it's a thumbs up. But I still have a question mark on who exactly is going to be on this roster. Because you've got 3 quarterbacks on the roster right now, and they are drafting at least 1 quarterback. They absolutely are drafting at least 1. So, ultimately, someone's got to go.
Well, Deshaun will be on IR.
He will be on IR, but at some point next year, is he going to be on the active roster?
No.
Do we know that?
No.
So what he's saying about his timetable is just complete nonsense.
I mean, I don't see any way that he
I don't either.
is in a Browns uniform. They put him. He's on IR.
Okay, good.
I'm not 100% that they will draft a quarterback at this point, but I tend to think, yes, they're going to draft 1. It's not going to be at 2. I think we know that.
Yep.
If I'm being totally honest, I don't get the Flacco thing. I don't get it.
Don't get it.
I don't understand it.
Yeah.
What's the difference in Flacco and Jameis Winston? They're both veterans who throw for a ton of yards and throw a ton of interceptions.
What you're arguing is what I was kind of arguing last year. I said he's basically the black Joe Flacco. I wouldn't have necessarily advocated kicking him to the curb either.
I just don't understand where are you trying to go with a 40-year-old quarterback? What are you trying to? What are you trying?
Bridge.
Like it's for me, it's every question goes back to where are you trying to go? What are you trying to accomplish? I don't understand what you're trying to accomplish with a 40-year-old quarterback.
Well, isn't he? He's just a bridge.
Well, you had
right?
a bridge, and Kenny Pickett. It's the same thing.
Well, is Kenny Pickett really a bridge?
He started for 2 years. Yeah,
I know, but we saw what he.
Now, I actually think Kenny is going to be a long-term backup here, and he'll be great as a long-term backup. Here's what they have in Flacco and Pickett. They have 2 adults who will meet the responsibilities, who will lead the locker room, who you don't have to worry about off the field, I don't think, who are not Instagram models,
which I love.
I have heard nothing but raving things about Kenny Pickett in terms of as a leader, in terms of what he's like in the locker room. Obviously, we know Flacco is an adult who meets his responsibilities. He was a terrific leader when he was here.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're trying to get out of it, all right, I guess. But I just don't understand what you're trying to accomplish with bringing back a 40-year-old quarterback.
I'll tell you, I'll echo your sentiments. You were right when it comes to the situation. You saying, listen, they're not thinking about now; they're thinking about when.
Absolutely, and they're thinking about the dome, and they're thinking about the 2026 quarterback.
Yeah, so trying to look like a professional franchise.
So here's what they really did: they gave to their base some nice red meat.
You're absolutely right.
They gave that. Right.
I'm sorry for everything we've put you through these last couple of years.
Here's your guy.
We know how much you like him.
That's your man.
We'll sign Nick Chubb back too if that's
now,
the case.
listen, I think that we haven't brought this up yet, and I'm surprised. What does it say to you about the prospects of bringing one Kirk Cousins to town?
Oh, it's over.
Oh, that's done.
And
Done.
And if I have to pick between Cousins and Flacco, I guess give me Flacco. Because
I would too.
You don't have to
Cheaper.
trade for him.
Yep,
He's
would.
cheaper. It's going to cost you less. It's not going to cost you a draft pick to
He's
bring him in.
also better.
I think ultimately
know.
what the conversation in the Browns front office was this. Let's compare the pros and cons of bringing Joe Flacco in and the pros and cons of bringing Kirk Cousins in. And ultimately, I don't know that I would go so far as definitively say, well, he's better. I don't know that I can go that far, but I think you're getting the same thing. You're getting a seasoned, veteran, older NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
So then what's the deciding factor? What's the cost going to be? When we get Joe for $4, we'll pay him $13. If we have to pay him $13, we'll gladly write $9 million for an extra 6 wins? Okay.
And I tell you what, you bring Flacco in, it automatically, it kind of is like a big blanket that puts a fire out. Like, okay, Deshaun Watson, you may be on the roster, but no one's going to talk about it because you got Flacco.
Whom he did not want on the roster last year.
So he's going to be there. Plus, if you do draft a rookie quarterback, it's great. You can say, all right, well, this is my offense. You see how this guy's running? Because to be honest with you, play action in the way that Stefanski wants to run it is a dying art. If you can find me the amount of quarterbacks that actually thrive on play action fakes and really can run that style of offense, there are few and far between. And Kevin Stefanski probably was like, listen, I'm done with this spread stuff. But most quarterbacks, most young guys are spread guys. They come up on it. So now you get a guy, you put him in the system, in that room, and he's not going to be great at it in the beginning. But what you can do is say, this is one of the guys, this is what we would like you to do, this is our vision. At the end of the day, it's a win-win, it's a low-cost, high ceiling, because people already have a history with Flacco. They already know it. And now, because it is Flacco, it also gives you some cover not to play a guy early. Like if you got Flacco and you got Pickett, are people going to be jumping up and down if say, for instance, it's a guy that needs some work, like Milroe needs some work or Jackson Dart needs some work?
It's easier to say we're going to sit him for a year and he's
there
going to
it
watch.
is. And it gives you some cover. And on top of that, you put in that I might get me 7 wins, 8 wins, somewhere along the line. And guess what? That saves you. You can forget about getting fired. And you can go in and next year you can look for a quarterback if you really want it that bad.
All right. What's best case scenario? How many games can they win with Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett as the quarterbacks? How many games?
7.
Best case scenario.
I think they can win 8.
7.
I think they can win 8 games.
I wouldn't be mad at 8.
All right.
So either way, we all said sub 500.
Yeah.
All right.
Best case
So
scenario.
7-8 wins. Where are you drafting next year?
14.
13, 14,
12.
15.
How are you going to get up to get a quarterback?
Well, you got the mortgage all the
Got to make a trade.
So what are we doing?
You got
Where are you trying to go? You
So
see what
Jay,
I'm saying?
let me
Where
ask
are
you
you
this.
trying to go?
Let me ask you this, because I had this conversation with someone yesterday when Joe Flacco was not a part of it. I was actually having this conversation with someone about Kirk Cousins. I kept saying, okay, so what then?
That's what I've been saying for
If not
3
Flacco,
months.
like what? Who?
Like, I wrote in December 2026. I wrote in December 2026 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But you have to have the trade capital to be able to move up if you're not in position. I'm not saying move up to 1. Just move up.
We don't even know. I mean, with especially now in college, we don't know who's coming out.
Yeah, okay, but how many times in back-to-back years have there been quarterback classes this bad?
Yeah,
how many times?
That's fair.
It's not going to happen.
But Jay, for them to get the crown jewel, they have to win 2 games.
I'm not saying the crown jewel.
Okay, well,
in the top 5, get to the top 5. Teams trade into the top 5 all the time to go get a quarterback.
So again, conflicting messages and objectives. You want to win games to show these people that you're asking for tens of millions or billions of dollars.
But you're not asking the people. They never took it in front of the people.
The government,
they're good with DeWine. DeWine, I will be shocked if DeWine vetoes this.
He won't. It's a done deal.
Okay, so they got the money. They got the money.
I know, but again, you're taking $600 million of public funds.
And?
Don't give me another 3 and 14. You don't deserve it.
What if you do? It doesn't matter. There's no recourse.
I know, but
they never took this before the public for a reason because they knew it would never pass.
Of course it would.
So they backdoored the whole thing.
They tried to say, well, let's go right to the lawmakers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what the smart lawmakers here said? Yeah, no.
It doesn't matter. They're going to get it.
You know the lawmakers that were in power? They said, okay, who cares what you guys think? We're going to give you that stadium.
Yeah, well, because they're looking at it as an economic driver. And I get that, and it will be. Like, I've had people, I don't know that world at all. I've had people tell me that from an economic driver standpoint, it will be a behemoth. We're going to get a Super Bowl. That will happen. Someone told me that just off what the Super Bowl brings to Cleveland, it's worth it.
I would probably agree with that.
And if the numbers that I've seen as to how much that means economically to a city, it's in line with that.
Yeah.
It will be a financial boon like we've never seen before.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of major events here. NBA championships, World Series games.
All-Star
that brings
games.
four dates, not one. None of it will compare to what the Super Bowl brings with one Sunday in February.
I would tend to agree.
So, the economic people that know this side tell me, Jay, it doesn't matter. He can be 2 and 15, and there could be 20,000 empty seats. This is going to drive money into our area like we've never seen before. It's going to make this thing seem like a toy box.
Yeah.
Okay? I get all of that. At the same time, if you have 3 kids, and the kids in this case are the Guardians, the Cavs, and the Browns, and the parent is local government, city, county, state, and those 3 kids all behave differently. One of them is an honor student and one valedictorian, but had a lot of drama along the way, but they had a valedictorian, and that would be your Cavaliers. Another one of them is on the dean's list every semester. Solid, great student, has always towed the line. And the other student
is a meth head.
Is doing meth and blow and skipping class and has won no academic awards, but tends to be the favorite. For some reason, mom and dad just love the meth head. So when you continually go to mom and dad and say, you got $500 million, we want to build a new wing to our stadium. We got to upgrade our stadium. It's dead last in Major League Baseball. Mom and dad writing those checks. Here you go, here you go, here you go. Eventually, mom and dad are going to look at the problem child and they're going to say, do you really deserve more of our money? And that happened. The city and the state said this. No.
Not the state.
No, I'm sorry, the city and the county.
And he said, and
you know what he did? I'm going to Grandpa.
Yeah.
Grandpa wrote a big check.
He would say, do you know who my brother is? Do you know how much donation money I give during the election? You're gonna get this done. And actually,
the rich people circles makes my skin crawl.
This was never going, like Jason said, this was never going in front of anybody that actually mattered that was going to be able to stop anything. This thing was always getting greenlit.
Because the state was his trump card.
Yes,
all
it
along.
was.
Yeah,
and he was like, listen, I'm going to act. He did it in a way where he acted like, this might be in question, and so we got to go back and reanalyze some things.
Jimmy had dinner with Roger Goodell and Jimmy DeWine at the Marble Room at the end of 2023 season.
Yep.
nobody told me, this is just me talking. I think at that point he knew he had it.
Oh yeah,
I think so, too.
right after that asparagus and that ribeye, it was a garlic mash, the asparagus
Probably
in the stadium,
a lot of wine, too.
and a lot of wine, and that's
So, and I asked him at the owners' meetings, if you don't get the county support, what then? And he said there are other ways to do it. I interpreted that as saying I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
But
No.
regardless,
Yeah.
he said there's other ways to do it, but it's better for everyone involved if there's cooperation and a partnership between the county and the team. But he can do it without them. Once he gets the state money, I don't think on-field performance has anything to do with it. Whether they win 3 games, 5, it doesn't matter.
No,
the
it
money's
does
in the
not.
bank.
and this is a thing too, because this is political. How many jobs is that thing going to get over there?
Well, the creation of it are all temporary jobs.
Yeah, right.
18 months, 24 months,
but we
whatever.
don't-
But it is a driver.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about the link, Jay. It's just about the jobs. We're not
Yeah,
going to
no,
put
I
that
always
in
look
fine
at those
print.
studies and I shake my head. Here's the other thing.
Right.
They'll say, well, the stadium project will directly create and maintain 6,000 jobs. Okay, 3,000 of them are people building the stadium. 2 years later, they're back to their next project.
Well,
the other are people that are selling beer and peanuts, and they're making less than an hour than the cost of one of their products.
Yeah, but
to sell.
there's also going to be quite a bit
Hotels.
of retail, hotel
That's where
around
Yes.
around the
Now-
stadium eventually.
now, here's the problem with that. I always look at these studies, and I've had many conversations with Destination Cleveland and a lot of the organizations like that. And I say, you throw this number out. Like this is going to, like the Final Four is going to bring $130 million to the Cleveland economy. Okay, let's dive into that. How much of that immediately leaves when it goes to corporate Hilton, corporate Hyatt,
Right.
and corporate this and that, and Marriott and all of that? Like, I understand that a lot of the local restaurants are packed on those days,
Right.
and that is you can't overstate the importance of that. So, yes, I think all that's very important. But the jobs created specifically by the stadium, they're all, for the most part, they're service industry jobs. Those aren't like if you brought a chips manufacturing plant.
Oh, no, no,
like
no.
like
Oh, no,
what's
no,
going
no.
on in Central Ohio.
No.
Like now you're talking about 5,000 steady, good-paying jobs that aren't going away
No, we're
when
not
the
talking
season's
about,
over.
We're not talking about advanced AI factories and
Much
tech
different.
places. That's not it.
I
This
mean,
is-
I think we kind of got off the beaten path on the financials of this, and maybe I took us there because I did say that
You did.
He wants them to be legitimate. That's a big part of this. Someone texted me this morning. Well, Jimmy insured he's not going to win 3 games next year,
There
and I
is.
think that's probably right. It's provided he can stay healthy, and Jimmy does need to do that because whether they're getting state money or not, and I know that your point is valid, there's still you still have to protect the product. If they move into that stadium and 3 of their last 4 years are sub 500 years, good luck selling those seat licenses and those tickets for what they're going to ask.
That's why 27 and 28 are the runway to 29.
Huge
I said that in December, that it's
Yeah.
all about framing this thing. They'll start probably the PSL process around 2027, I would think. So that's why this is the transition year.
Get ready for sticker
They
shock.
get you get the quarterback next year, and then you launch, and you hope that you get the right guy, and then you're ready
Better.
to launch into sales of 27 and 28.
Well, finding that next quarterback leads us right into our next topic, guys. But first, a quick word from Nissan. The Armada Player of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, we take a look at a draft prospect and pick one guy that stands apart from the crowd. The guy we believe showcases the strength and power needed to push the Browns forward as we look ahead to next season. And this week's Armada and clear-cut player of the week is none other than Travis Hunter. He plays offense and defense. Talk about heavy duty. He puts his head in on tackles, not scared to get involved in the run game. Rugged is one way to describe his game. He's conquered the road and overcome adversity at both Jackson State and at Colorado. He dreamed big. He won big by winning the Heisman, just like the Nissan Armada. It's clear that our player of the week, Travis Hunter, is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in an all-new Nissan Armada or any other outstanding Nissan vehicle. Take the Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your big next adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. So, guys, Todd McShay put out a mock draft yesterday, and this is obviously prior to the Joe Flacco news. But I thought the mock draft was interesting for a few reasons. First and foremost, with the second pick in the draft, Todd McShay, the Browns, taking Travis Hunter. But then in the first trade he proposed in his mock draft 3.0, he had the Browns trading back up with the Atlanta Falcons to get the number 15 pick and select Shedeur Sanders, giving Cleveland the same quarterback-receiver duo that we saw in Colorado and at Jackson State. In this proposed trade for the Browns to get the 15th pick and select Shedeur Sanders, they gave up 33, 67, and next year's second-round pick. So a third this year and a second-rounder next year to move back into the first round and select the quarterback. Todd McShay went on to explain his reasoning, and I thought what he said was interesting. That's what Todd said about that trade. Quote, "I'm not putting out a mock with my name on it without some information. It would be really easy for me to go Mike Green at 15 and Tyler Shuck or Milroe at 33. I didn't. I will never reveal sources, not saying this is what will happen, but if you're a Cleveland fan, start thinking with this mindset." He went on then to talk about the reason Atlanta was a potential trade partner, and they have the second fewest draft picks of any team in the NFL in this upcoming draft. They have 5 draft picks total in the 2025 NFL draft. Steve, you want to take that next graphic whenever you can. I would be thrilled if you put that on the screen because I don't have these draft picks memorized. But they have the 15th overall pick. They have a second-round pick. They have a 4th-round pick and 2 7ths. That's it. No 3rd-round pick. No 5th-round pick. No 6th-round pick. So that is why Atlanta is a plausible trade partner here for the Cleveland Browns. If they're looking to unload some extra picks, the Browns do have 13 in this draft to move back into the first round. Jason, first off, do you think this is a viable possibility for the Browns to come out of the first round of the draft with both Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, or is that just a pipe dream?
I think, is it possible? Sure, anything's possible. I wonder if he still feels this way after today.
Yeah, I'd like to know that too.
Because I think this changes things. 15 is about. I don't think it's realistic to go any higher than that. I think probably you'd have to go lower. I totally get what he's saying with Atlanta and needing the picks. I don't know if 33 and 67 is enough to get you up to 15 in a future 2. That looks probably about right. There's a point where it's like if you like the guy, just take him at 2. Because you're risking another team. You're risking the Saints at 9.
Exactly.
You're risking too many teams
That's
or
what I
another
thought.
team jumping in front of you.
Now, if you do that, you don't get Hunter.
Right, but it's all about the quarterback.
Yeah,
So
you'd have
if
to like Sanders on his own.
Correct.
More than Hunter and
Yeah.
any other guy.
If
And
you-
I don't think you can get there.
If you like him, if
Take
you
him.
like Shedeur, take him at 2.
Yep.
If you don't like him, why would you trade back up to get him? That's the part I don't
Yeah,
understand.
I agree with that.
The reason I kind of push back on that a little bit is because the only reason you might not like Shedeur Sanders like that is because you feel you have such a high evaluation on Travis Hunter and that he's a generational player in which you cannot pass on. So, if a regular year came around and you had just a receiver or a cornerback and Shedeur Sanders was there in a regular year, you might say, well, of course, I'm going to take the quarterback. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have him higher than Travis Hunter, I can see you saying, I got to take this guy and I'll figure out what I could do later on. Now, if you want to look at it, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, this guy might be gone because there's a couple teams that could take him. The Giants could take him. The Raiders could possibly take him. The Saints could take him. And it's one of those things, you just let the board play out. I guess it's a situation where you just wait and see because you may have a similar grade on Shedeur Sanders that you have on Jackson Dart. Or you may say, well, look, I don't have a first-round grade on him, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to post up. I could think about trading back into that first round if he's still there after the Saints. But if he's not there and somebody else takes him, the Saints take him, I'll just stay pat.
Well, he could free fall. If he's still there at that point, that's why some mocks have him going 25.
Yeah.
In that case, if he's free falling, I could definitely see. And remind you, this happened to Aaron Rodgers.
Yes,
like,
it did.
You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, we talk about one of the best to throw the football. So the Browns, and I'm going to just say this: if the Browns can come away with Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, they already bought back Flacco, and Jimmy and D. Haslam came out and said it was a mistake getting Deshaun Watson. They have improved their image. The fastest I've ever seen anybody improve their stock. because you
Don't
say
they have to win some games too?
I mean, but look, hey, that's part of the game. Yes, you got to win them.
Okay,
but
so they've won the offseason.
they completely win.
They're
the
good at winning the
offseason.
offseason.
And they
Win the
undefeated in the
offseason all the
offseason.
time.
they flipped it over because look at what you can talk about. You just not only got Shedeur Sanders, but you got Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders who already have a level of chemistry.
I'm sorry, go ahead, finish.
No, but also you got Flacco, so you don't have to play him that quickly. And think about it. You got your franchise quarterback, and you got it in a way where you still got the best player in the draft amongst many people that would say.
Maybe you can draft Shedeur and sit him. Maybe. But if you play him, bringing Flacco back is the worst thing you could do to a young quarterback. Because if you play the young guy, the first time he throws a pick, everybody's going to be screaming to play Joe.
You aren't kidding.
Yeah.
So
And the other way around, too. The first time Joe has a 3-pick game, everybody in the stadium is going to be screaming Shedeur's.
Yeah, but Joe's 40 and he didn't care.
I understand
think it's
that,
a little
but,
bit different
you don't want
than
to
an NFL rookie.
invite a quarterback controversy.
You would have to, at all cases, Joe would have to be completely washed, finished, and it was obvious to everybody.
I mean, it happened last year. I was talking to people in Indianapolis who the exact same thing happened where Richardson was struggling and everybody was screaming to play Flacco. And now, you got this young quarterback here who doesn't have the support. Even if you have the team, you don't have the city behind you. It impacts young guys particularly, especially it impacts young guys when it's in the social media era when they're all over the place and they hear all these people screaming for Flacco to play, it can have an impact. So if you're taking a quarterback at 2, you're playing them. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're taking a quarterback at 2. I think this solidifies that.
I'll say this about Todd. For him to put that down in his mock, he's absolutely right. He doesn't have to tell us the source. Why would he? He's hearing that from somebody. Mm-hmm. He is hearing from somebody in the know that it is a possibility. Now, we always talk about the war room gaming that goes on prior to the draft and how the higher you pick, the fewer scenarios you have to prepare for.
Yes.
Really, if you're the Cleveland Browns, there's only a handful of scenarios that you have to prepare for at number 2. They're game rooming for number 33. And I think that what Todd is hearing from a source inside the Browns organization is that there has been discussion of, hey, what if we can get our cake and eat it? What if we can get Hunter and Shedeur? So, and by the way, I know you talk about the chemistry. I think a lot is that's overblown a lot because we've also seen times where we have had college hookups that went to the same NFL team and it didn't work out the same way.
Yeah.
And they had, a large body of work together at the college level. I think what they're talking about in the Browns game room is what if Shedeur falls to 15? What if the teams that we think are going to take him early don't? Why don't we build a scenario that if he's still there at 15, what would we be willing to give up to go get him at 15? And I also think they're game rooming the same thing for what if he's still there at 25? Mm-hmm. Do we now want to go up and take him at 25?
25 seems more realistic to me than 15.
I do too. I believe that too. I think that's the one that they've got circled.
Jay, real quick.
There's a chance that he could slip that far.
The Vikings, real quick. The other team that has fewer draft picks than the Falcons is the Minnesota Vikings.
Right.
At 24. So that's another spot that you could circle and say they may be willing to turn 24 into 2 or 3 picks later in the draft because they only have 4.
Yeah, they're not taking a quarterback.
They only have 4 picks in the entire draft.
24 feels more realistic to me.
I agree.
And going up 9 spots than trying to get up 18 spots. Like if you're the Falcons and you draft, you have to look at it from their perspective. They got a lot of holes too.
They do.
And if you fall from 15 out of the first round, you better have a real good reason why you just did that.
Yeah.
And I think, I talked about this 3 days ago, that the first available spot, I think we were here. I said the first available spot that I looked at, see that somebody could possibly trade is 15 with the Falcons. Now, to go all the way back from 15 to 33, that's kind of rough. Like, you're missing on a lot of players that can help them. I think that in this scenario, they would have to give up something. They might have to throw another pick in this year to make it work. But my goal has always been get ahead of the Steelers at 21.
And G, before you continue that statement, the reason McShay picked Atlanta in this mock draft was he said they have to get in front of Pittsburgh. He looked at the Minnesota Vikings pick at 24 and said, I couldn't do it because it was behind Pittsburgh. If they want Shedeur, they're gonna have to get in front of Pittsburgh. That's just McShay speaking, not necessarily.
Do you guys think the smoke coming out of Pittsburgh with Tomlin and Sanders there's fire there, or do you think that could be an action that might cause the Browns to do something? Because again, you get stronger if your opponents get weaker.
Yes, I do not want the Pittsburgh Steelers getting their choice of quarterbacks. I don't want it, and it's double punitive if you let Shedeur Sanders go to freaking Pittsburgh and he actually turns out to be good.
Well, that's the big part. Only if he's good.
Only
if he
ends
up being Kenny Pickett, take him.
That's fine.
I cheered when they took Kenny Pickett. I'm like, oh my God, they made a mistake at quarterback. They never do that.
If you have a first round grade on Shedeur, and you just didn't take him because you didn't want to pass on Travis Hunter, by all means, I would tell you to go move up, take whoever you got, put him in the system, and let's go.
A lot of I can't wait for this draft.
Isn't it crazy?
Many storylines, particularly what will happen at quarterbacks. The one thing that we know history has told us is that we always think that there will be a drought. We don't always think this. In years past when we've said, well, there's not that many quarterbacks that are worth taking in the first round. What happens? There's still a lot of quarterbacks taken in the first round. Someone's going to flinch. Someone's going to get anxious because it is the most important position in all of sports.
There could be 4 taken is my bet.
I think there could be 5 taken. I think there could be 5.
I have a bold prediction. This might suck a little bit, but I think some team's going to draft Jackson Dart over Shedeur.
It very well could.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
I think they'll go and
keep going off the McShay mock just for the sake of this. He had Dart going 9 to the Saints.
It's Todd. Are me and you aligned? This is crazy.
Your draft spirits.
I said, listen, because I could see them saying we had some success with Drew Brees. This guy, he plays. You put him in a dome. We like what he's able to do. I think that some team could say, listen, I like Jackson Dart. We're going to draft him, and Shedeur could fall, to the third quarterback. And then too, I'm going to say this: Jalen Milroe is moving up, bro. In my mind, I told Mikey before I came in, I said maybe it's intoxicating because I just keep watching this film and him running away from people. And I think like, okay, I keep going back to Stefanski having these little packages where he was led tight ends, quarterbacks sneaking different things. And I'm looking around like, man, he don't have an elite arm or elite. He does not throw the ball well intermediately. He does not. That's not his game. But he throws a great deep ball. And if it's anybody that you can say, all right, we're going to run the ball, we're going to run a little play action, if we can get his footwork together, he has an I try not to watch it all the time because I'll be telling myself.
I can tell you something to watch that will counterbalance that.
Yeah.
His interceptions.
Yeah.
Go watch I think it's on YouTube. I saw it. All of his interceptions.
Yep.
His touchdown to interception ratio is alarming to me.
It is bad.
Because in college, when you look at all these top guys, they're 5-1, 6-1.
Even Lamar Jackson.
Even more than that. Even Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
His touchdown to interception ratio is not good.
Yeah, it's not.
And that's what scares me.
There was a brief time when we first launched The Athletic when I was actually in charge of hiring a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it was the first time in my life I was ever in charge of making those types of decisions. And one thing I figured out quickly was hire really smart people who work hard and they're going to figure it out.
Yeah, they always do.
And I know it doesn't translate to the NFL. Mm-hmm. I get it. But I look at Jalen Milroe as really smart dude who works his ass off.
And he's talented.
And he'll figure it out. I would not be upset if the Browns drafted him.
What does that touchdown to interception ratio say to you?
I need some work.
Yeah. He's not ready to start right now.
Yep. The project.
Do you think this is a fascinating debate for another show? We could do 2 hours on this. I've had this conversation with quarterbacks, general managers, and head coaches, and I always love asking it. Do you think interceptions can be coached out of a player's game?
I don't think that's a blanket answer.
There's so many where you can say, yeah, this player, this guy. And
Jameis, they've never been coached out.
But
he
the
even asked to be delivered
majority,
from him.
this is just from asking this question dozens of times, most of the answers that I've been given on that question is, yeah, if I have to give an answer yes or no, because like you, there's gray. Some guys, yeah. But as a general rule, if you're going to do that, it's very difficult to do. It's in the guy's DNA, and it's tough. Hell, they couldn't.
Can you put them up again? Can you
Who,
put
for
them
Milroe?
stats? Yeah, Milroe.
I think it's
Yeah,
45
You
or
want his
48
year by
to
year
20.
or his career stats?
Give me them year by years. Because
Last year was his worst,
last year,
and that's troubling.
last year,
it should have been his best.
Alabama as a whole stepped back. Alabama, the coaching staff, the defense.
They were still a very good.
I mean,
team.
look at
9-4.
Look at
they were
20.
still very
look
good.
at 23
There you
with
go.
Tommy Reese and Nick
There you go.
Saban.
That's what I was going at. Look at that 23-6 with Tommy Reese, right? Think about what Tommy.
That's still not great.
I mean, it's not.
It's acceptable.
But
4-1.
It's acceptable. Now look at the other top guys. 38-8.
Yeah.
38-6.
Tommy Reese is going to say, but those guys don't have that skill set. If I got you definitely can't teach a skill set.
Are you talking speed?
Yeah,
Like,
speed.
That's what's in time. When I watch that, I'm like, oh, please take this kid. Please take this kid.
If they end up, I'm not even going to be mad at it. If they say, okay, well, we don't want to even trade up all that capital, and he's just sitting there, there's a chance he could be there at 33.
Absolutely.
And you feel like it's not that big of a difference, and you planning on not taking and mortgaging anything else, you can stay at 33 and possibly get this dude. And then now you can still go do some other things without giving him any capital. But it just all depends on what you feel about the quarterback. And I don't know how much they value Shedeur Sanders.
You have some insight. I mean, Jalen. I think he's well thought of. I'm not sure of their thoughts on Shedeur, but it seems to me they're not in love with him. At least not at number 2.
I mean, that's a high price.
So it is, because you're sacrificing what could be a generational player, or if you wanted to go Carter, you could go that route too. I'm still not. I'm more leaning now towards they're going to take Hunter, but I still haven't ruled out the opportunity that they get Carter.
I think they like I think they're going Hunter.
You do?
Yeah. There was 2 things I came away from the owners' meeting feeling pretty good about. 1, they were taking Travis Hunter, and 2, Jackson Dart was going in the middle of the first round, in the middle to late teens of the first
Yeah.
round. Those were the 2 things that I probably felt the best about leaving Florida. In terms of Milroe and Shedeur, I do think they like Milroe. I do think they are intoxicated with
Is it
some
because
of the
the higher
speed.
upside?
The speed element and what he brings is so unique.
Yeah.
And I think that they like Shedeur. There's a lot of noise around him, but I think that they like him at his core of who he is. They don't think he's a bad guy. I do think that they look at him as like the noise doesn't matter.
We should throw out there on Carter. I think it was Tyvis that texted that tweet. I hadn't seen that tweet of Abdul Carter tweeting out a picture of.
Well, he's at the Giants. He's at the Giants facility today.
I know, but did he do that when he?
Not to my knowledge, he did not tweet Myles Garrett.
Not that
when
I
he was
saw.
out.
Yeah.
They met 5 times with Carter now. Today was their 5th meeting.
The Giants.
With the Giants with Abdul Carter. So.
Oh yeah, they drafted
Listen,
that dude.
they
interest there.
love defense. They
But-
love the defensive front.
But
They've won Super Bowls with great defensive
to
fronts.
put a bow on it, McNuggets. If you tell me you got Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter,
You're doing backflips.
I told you I was going to pump my brakes this year, didn't I?
You did.
No, yeah, you say that a lot. I never believe you. You got no brakes, bro. You're all gas, no brakes.
Jason, I said I was going to pump my brakes. I'll wait till it happens. I'm not going to say nothing.
Your rotors are all scraped up.
Let me ask you this. Quickly put a bow on it. What quarterback wide receiver combo would most excite you? Because of the scenarios, now obviously got to take into account where they had to move up to get that quarterback.
Sure, that's a pretty big
But
part of the discussion.
It is a huge part. But let's just say they could get Dart at 15. They could get Sanders at 15. They could get Shuck at 15. Is there another quarterback wide receiver scenario that would excite you more than Sanders and Hunter?
Jackson Dart throws a nice deep ball.
Cam Ward, Travis Hunter.
Well, no, obviously Cam Ward's
obviously,
one.
right, yeah, that one. No. Like they call themselves brothers. Like Prime says, can you imagine? Prime says, my 2 sons then went over down to Cleveland. That would be, listen, that's box office, man. That's
I don't want box office. I want wins. Wins always equates to box office.
They gonna give me box
Pairings, great pairings, only mean box office if they equal wins.
Hey, I know.
Once upon a time we had Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham. That's box office.
Yes, it is.
That was a disaster.
It wasn't a disaster.
That was a dumpster fire.
I mean, they both performed.
If I have to put that in the category of wins and losses,
It was a disappointment. It was
It
definitely
was a
a
disappointment.
I mean, you do know they
based
both.
on what we expected and what we got.
Do you know they both had 1,000 yards, right?
Again,
When is that ever happened? Never.
and how many playoff wins?
Hey, listen, I give you that.
I don't want stats. I don't want box office. I want wins.
Hey.
I'll win ugly. I'll win 3-2 if I can.
I will take those. Now, wins come.
Those are Guardians games there.
All
Yeah,
things,
they
all
are.
things being equal with McNuggets, you got to win. You got to do it. But don't tell me ain't nobody excited. The Cleveland Browns is on the map. You give me both of them, bro. I'm ready to go, says the men in all black.
It'd be fun. Let's
Looking
talk a
for
little
the brake
Guardians,
pedal.
guys. They swept the White Sox. Before we do that, a quick reminder that the NBA playoffs tip off next week, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place a $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. You can bet on three-pointers, steals, assists. FanDuel has so many different ways for you to bet on your favorite player props. Don't miss out. Head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Jay, why'd you slap G?
Love it. I told him I was going to land my Gatorade bottle on that chair,
And it almost.
and I threw it, and it was
It was
on the
dead
chair,
on.
and it was stopping, and then it rolled off.
From my peripheral vision as I was reading this, all I see was you smack G. I didn't see any other. I was like, what did I miss? But the Guardians swept the White Sox, a much-needed sweep for Cleveland. Gavin Williams pitched his best game of the season yesterday. I'll let the floor and let you guys take it away wherever you want to start, but it's a sweep, and Gavin Williams looked good. So two big takeaways as we head into a weekend series here.
They swept a 4A team, and I might be. I think I'm being nice if I say 4A. Like
3 1/4.
I'm not sure they would win the International League. It's really rough watching this team. Man, I would think about picking a new team if I was a White Sox fan, because I love to watch baseball, but I hate to watch bad baseball. And if I had to watch this every day, I would pull my hair out. I couldn't do it. So, but teams are going to lose games to the White Sox this year.
Yep.
Last year, the White Sox were 5-8 against us. And I think that was the best record they had against any of the American League Central teams. They almost cost the Guardians the American League Central title. And so, yes, you have to win them, but I can't do victory laps, particularly when they won Game 1, 1-0 on a walk-off after Mike Clevenger walked 3 straight guys. By the way, it looks like he ate Trevor Bauer.
That's crazy.
He's put on some LBs.
I didn't recognize him.
He used to be, just a little heavier than Tristan McKenzie.
I think some of the nightlife might have something
It
to
caught
do
up
with
to
that.
him. They win Game 2 because their runner gets sniped coming home and had to pull up lame. And I wish he wouldn't have, because I think Quan had him with the throw. I think Quan's throw still would have got him at home.
It was offline a little bit, though.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was off the plate
up
a
a
little
step,
bit, yeah.
but still he was in position where he could have put the tag down. So you talk about wow, that's pretty bad way to lose 2 games. Then yesterday they just got thumped, but they won all 3, and they're back to 500, and they needed him desperately.
The look on, I mentioned this the other day, the look on Hedges and Clase's face when they won that game was like, we got away with one there.
Especially Clase.
Yeah, we got away with one
Because
there.
I think he's deleted the pictures of his awards that he sent out on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things that concern me about this team. I think we'll talk about it later. Their defense has been horrendous so far. That's troubling. This is the team typically built on pitching and defense, and the defense
We have an
just
error
hasn't
game.
been there. What's that?
I think we have an error a game.
Just under.
11 errors, 12 games.
That's
We're going to
crazy.
talk about that in a later segment.
And watching Brian Rocchio run the bases is like watching Will Ferrell and running streaking naked through the quad. I have no idea what Rocchio's doing
That
on the base
playoff
paths.
Rocchio ain't really showing
No,
up.
I do. I'm still buying stock on Rocchio as a breakout guy this year. I still think
He's got to get this together, though.
But
Jay.
him on the bases, he's had 2 that I know that I can recall off the top of my head this year. 2 already, where it's like, where are you going? What are you doing?
Sometimes a manager, when he's trying to empower his players and he says, guys, we're going to be aggressive on the bases. Some guys hear that differently. Some guys hear that, well, when I've got a favorable count and I've got a pitcher that Sandy's telling me has a slow delivery to the plate, and I feel like I'm going against an inferior catcher and not one of the top arms, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Other guys, when they hear that same message, guys, we're going to be aggressive on the base paths, they think that when a pitcher comes set and he's on second,
I'm out of here.
Once he starts moving his neck from looking at you, you can go. There's different levels to aggressive on the base paths.
Yeah.
Rocchio needs to come back about 3 notches, and then in the field, he makes great plays, and then he's boneheading simple ground balls or things that would start a double play turn or whatever. And I think that's a lack of concentration.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're saying about him internally, but when you put Arias at short, that I don't know if that was that to get his attention.
I don't know what that was. I said when they start switching, is this like?
I mean, as for right now, I would just count it as an off day. Arias can play anywhere, but we'll see
but to me, I think there might have been a little bit of message
meaning
to that
behind it,
too.
possibly.
Yeah, like shortstops is a place you just don't really.
Oh, when you get it, you don't want to give it up.
Nah.
I mean, they haven't been able to pick between these guys in years, and it looks like they have made the decision that it's Rocchio.
I believe so.
But I mean, for years they've had all of these top middle infield prospects, and they haven't been able to figure out any of them, or none of them have taken hold of the job and run with it.
This is really our only Guardians talk in the YouTube show, right? We're doing more Guardians at 12:30 on WKYC.
Yes. So we go into whatever you want.
All right. I'll save my big point for the WKYC show. We always say it. The thing that you can least rely on year to year is bullpen dominance.
Yeah.
We're seeing it. We're starting to see now. Again, it was the White Sox, so you should own this lineup. Clase can't figure it out against a bad hitting team. Some other guys, it seems, might be getting a little healthy off of the White Sox lineup. We saw the bullpen pitched great in Game 1. They really pitched great for the whole series. Cade Smith started to look like the old Cade Smith.
Yeah.
He's coming around. The thing that scares me is typically this time of year, pitching is way ahead of hitting.
Yeah.
So when I see pitchers that struggle, that's a blinking red light and flags everywhere to me.
Especially when it's cold. Like people aren't hitting the ball hard everywhere. Like you're supposed to be getting people out. Like especially in April. Like that's
the teams that have played. Now I don't know what I need more info on this study. Somebody and Tom Hamilton was talking about this. I think in the 6th inning of yesterday's game. I don't know where he read it. I don't know what his source was, but he was talking about games that have been played in cold weather. Well, what's cold weather? 30, 40, 50? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yesterday it was 48, but the humidity, it was so much moisture in the air, it felt like it was 20 over there.
Yeah.
It was so cold. But in his conversation, I think it was in the 6th inning, about how teams are hitting 150 points below in these cold weather games. Again, what delineates cold weather, I don't know. But I've always known that cold weather, it's tough to hit. Guys start slowly because of it. The teams that are playing in LA and San Diego and some warmer climates always tend to do better in the early months. A pleasant surprise to me has been Kwan and Ramirez at the top of the lineup are performing marvelously. I don't want to give away too much, but we're getting exactly what I expected we were going to get out of Jose Ramirez in the 2-hole. I don't like it. I didn't like it on opening day. I like it even less now. Those numbers are alarming because you can't have 4 home runs and 6 RBI. You can't do it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys that have the numbers that look like that early in the year.
Not the best hitter in your lineup, because typically he's hitting 3 and 4, and there's guys on base in front of him. I mean, he's hitting solo home runs.
Yeah.
If he hits solo home runs all year, we're not winning the Central.
I don't know. I think it's too early. It's too early to make that declaration.
What did you make of Gavin Williams' start yesterday? I know it's the White Sox lineup, and Jason, you accurately said earlier that they have 2 hitters.
Luis Robert,
if they're being generous.
Luis Robert is a bona fide major league hitter, and Andrew Vaughn is kind of a major league hitter. Yeah, kind of.
But I thought Gavin Williams still looked pretty good yesterday. Stuff was back, or looked to be more back than it has been.
I didn't check his velo. I assume it was where it's supposed to be.
It was cranking all day, 97.
Yeah. I think he's going to be fine this year.
His first inning scared me. You know, he didn't win a game at home last year.
That's wild.
He was 0-7 at Progressive last year.
That is weird.
I didn't know that until the pregame show. His first inning, he was over 20 pitches. He spiked a couple. Their run was basically because he spiked, I think, a slider that allowed the runner. A guy got a bloop base hit, a nothing base hit. It should have been caught. On a normal day, it would have been caught. It wasn't an error. I mean, it was a hit, but most days it's caught. He spikes a slider, allows the runner to go to second. And anyhow, the guy ends up scoring on a passed ball. So it's not like he got hit all over the place. And then he retired 10 in a row. He got the last out of the first, and then he went second, third, fourth, perfect innings. And I thought, if it wasn't for the first inning, he probably could have gone 6 or 7. But it's the best he's looked.
Yep.
And we need that. The guys that I'm worried most about, Tristan McKenzie looks like a shell of himself.
Yep.
Emmanuel Clase is dinged emotionally. To me, there has absolute been carryover from the Tigers, Yankees to this year.
Jay, can I ask you a question on Clase? Because you weren't here Wednesday when Bull brought this up. He said he thinks Clase is throwing too many strikes, and that because he's throwing too many strikes, guys are jumping on early pitches that aren't bad pitches, but because they're so terrified to get into a 2-strike situation against him, they're being more aggressive. That's leading to some success. Is there potentially some validity to that?
No, there is validity to that. And here's the problem with that. Sometimes you're a victim of your own success. When you throw 20 pitches and 17 of them are strikes, what is the hitting coach telling you in the pregame?
Hey, get up there,
Get
cuts
go early.
Don't look. Don't look.
First pitch.
This is a guy that historically likes to get up in the count, and he's going to be around the plate. So it's a real delicate dance. The book is out on Clase. Not that there hadn't been enough work from Clase for teams to figure this out, but when a pitcher struggles, smart teams pull all of that tape and study it. Okay, what's the common denominator? Well, the common denominator around the Tigers and the Yankees' successes against him was he was all in the zone. And when you're all in the zone, hitters are they're gonna take chances. And 97 or 100 today isn't what it used to be. And it's not what it used to be is because there's a lot more guys that throw it.
You see it more often.
And as a result, you see it more often.
Yeah.
Your son is big in the baseball world.
Yeah.
The biggest jump that he's going to have in skill set is when he finally starts throwing real hard throwers. And he'll probably get that in high school when he's seeing consistent 85, maybe even high 80s. Mm-hmm. The jump that occurs is when you first see it, you're thinking to yourself, I'll never be able to hit that. I'll never be able to hit that. And then all of a sudden, a light goes off and you're like, okay, I've got it. I've made the adjustments. The league has made the adjustment to the hard throwers, which means you got to have 2 or 3 pitches, and you've also got to work the edges. And right now, I don't think he's working the edges.
See, that's the thing. He's a 3-time All-Star. The book has been out on Clase for years.
It is.
He's missing his spots. He's leaving things out over the plate. He's always thrown strikes. It's part of the reason he can go 2 and 3 days in a row. He doesn't strike out a ton of guys because he's economical in his pitches, and he works the edges. And hitting a 100-mile-an-hour cutter on the edge, you might hit it, but you're not going to barrel it more times than not. You're going to ground out.
When you throw it in the nitro zone,
and
look out.
That's like he's throwing more sliders this year, fewer cutters. And he's missing his spots more often.
Yeah.
That's what I saw in the Tigers and the Yankees, and that's what I'm seeing this year. When you leave it out over the plate, it's gonna get hit. So it's
these guys are good hitters, man.
Yeah, it's not necessarily he's throwing too many strikes. I just think he's missing his spots.
Well,
he's missing his locations.
The reason I say I think he's throwing too many strikes is part of that book that the Tigers and I think the Yankees figured out was that if you're up there and the bat is on your shoulder against him, you're at a huge disadvantage. You'd rather take a shot. And you can't do that with a guy that throws a lower percentage of strikes because you might be giving him a free strike. With Clase, they know if we swing, he's earned that strike.
But teams, I think, have been aggressive on him throughout his career. That's why he gets through an inning in 15 pitches, and he can come back the next day and then the third day in a row because he's always been economical with his pitches because he's always around the plate. But there's a big difference in middle, and on the black with what he throws.
Just stay out of the nitro zone because bad hitters will hit that ball out of the over the fence.
And sometimes when somebody's throwing that fast, guys up there just trying to put the ball in play a little bit. From what I've seen going back to last year, they're not just putting it in play; they're looking to drive the ball deep. Like and they're up there taking cuts. Like no, we have an advantage. We know you're going to throw the ball. And by the way, if you're a closer, I don't need to go deep in the count. We know that you're in for how many outs? 3 outs.
Yeah.
I don't need the rest of my team to see any pitches. I'm jumping on the first pitch that I like, and I'm going to try to drive it somewhere.
Yeah, I just think he could benefit from, obviously, stay out of the nitro zone. Just don't go there. But I want to see him work the edges more, and if that means that he starts a cutter over the plate and it ends up out of the zone, that's perfect. because at that speed, it's almost impossible to differentiate that from a fastball. Guys are going to jump at that, and if it's over the plate when their bat is over the plate, there's a good chance they're going to put it in play. If it's off the plate, they're going to swing and miss.
Yeah.
And you're right, Jay. He has typically been economical with his pitches. He's not a guy that comes up there, good morning, good afternoon, good night, and blows away the side. But with the pitches that he has, he can get guys to swing and miss. He can.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him do more of that. I'm really worried about him, Jay.
Yeah.
I'm worried about this.
Yeah. Yes, it's April. Yes, it's early April. Yes, there's time. But when you combine the end of last year with the start of this year, I think it's fair to have concerns about where he's at. And again, I don't think it's like there's a reason they were shopping him 2 years ago. They got him on a long-term deal, and they tried shopping him. And they had a real high price tag on him, and nobody came up and met it. So then he came back, and he had an unbelievable year last year. And I don't know if they shopped him again coming off that year last year or not. I don't know.
What's his ERA right now?
I believe it's 6. I'll double check.
Oh, my God.
I mean,
I know.
With relievers, one bad outing, and you've got a horrible ERA for a month and a half.
But he's had more than one bad outing.
Yeah, he's a 6 ERA.
I'm waiting for his good outing.
Yeah.
Now, the other day, I think it was game
He is 2-0
1.
this year.
He pitched.
That's not good for a closer.
Yeah, no, you don't want to be 2-0. That means you're blowing the save.
I'm just
If you
saying.
get a win, if you get a win or a loss, that's a save.
Well,
blown.
it depends when they break.
His job is not to win games. His
Yeah.
job is to close
It depends.
games.
I don't know if they've brought him in and tie games. I don't remember all of his appearances now.
He's blown one save. He has one save, one blown
I think
save.
they did bring him in a tie, and they ended up getting the
got
win.
the
It was the 1-0 win against Chicago on Tuesday.
yeah.
home
And he
opener.
and he did pitch
Yeah.
well in that. But again, it's the White Sox. You know what? Take the White Sox, everything we saw in that series, and put it away, and let's see how they do against the Royals. These are the Royals, the Tigers, and the Twins. That's going to decide the division.
Yeah.
The White Sox will not. So go win
facts.
some games against those teams. We'll be
All right, guys, we're going to move on, talk a little Cavs. If you have not found the Barbershop's new home, it is the UCSS YouTube channel every Saturday morning when G is healthy enough to do it. G, you doing a barbershop tomorrow morning?
Whoa, that was a sly dig right there.
It was.
Well, he missed last week with his throat surgery. Every once in a while he's on the IL.
Actually, to be truthful, I was on last week. It was a great show too.
2 weekends was
Yeah, it was
when he
2
missed it.
weeks,
But he's
so,
back this week.
yeah.
Make sure you check out the Barbershop at 9 a.m. every Saturday right here on the UCSS channel. Leads into, if you don't watch us on WKYC at 12:30, we repost that show at 11 a.m. on Saturday. So G. Bush into this Friday WKYC show. Check it out on the YouTube page. So the Cavs aren't playing for anything. They rested Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and Evan Mobley yesterday. They benched Jared Allen at halftime. Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter didn't finish the game. But the storyline from last night's game was Kenny Atkinson, guys. Kenny got ejected standing up for Tristan Thompson. If you didn't see it, this is the video of Kenny's irate reaction to not getting a foul call on Tristan Thompson on a drive. Not only did he get one technical, he went back for seconds, got a second, and got kicked out of the game. Jason, you know Kenny does not fake emotions. He does not lose his mind and his temper very often. But last night got him set off, and I will just start this off by saying I absolutely love this from Kenny. Standing up for a guy like Tristan Thompson, who is by no means the star of the team. And when you have that kind of emotion and you have your players back to that level, it's no surprise they play as hard as they do for him on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny, that happened. I went back and looked. That happened once in Brooklyn. Same exact situation. He got tossed for a game for sticking up for his guys. They thought it was a bad call. And, I think he said after the game something to the effect of Tristan has earned that level of respect both from him and from the officials. And it was a foul. He's right. It was looked like 2 fouls to me. They got him twice, and neither one of them was called. And Kenny's point is he's a veteran. He's a pillar of this team, and he may not be in a leading role anymore, but he's going to have his back. And all players appreciate it, I think, when a coach has their backs like that. And that was a really good time to do it because everything's clinched, everything's wrapped up, and nothing matters anymore.
That's it.
So you can go off on the officials. Maybe he gets a fine for that. Maybe he doesn't, whatever. It's a good time to show them, even the guys at the bottom of the roster, that he cares and he's got their back and he's going to stand up for them. And it did it in a game where winning or losing didn't really matter.
You know what? We always talk about this in football when you get the backups that go in and you want to put something on tape. You want to put something on tape to let them know you got to watch out for this. You better be ready for this because next week we might do this with our starters, right? So now this is a great opportunity for Kenny to play his Jedi mind tricks. He's like, refs, note to self, I'm not a pushover. And if you guys must respect my number one seeded Cleveland Cavaliers teams, we should be getting these calls. And don't think you can come in here to this postseason and disrespect us. That was his way of showing, hey, we not no pushovers. We not going to take that. Here's what I think about it. I don't like it. I will get ejected. And it serves 2 points. Your team knows you have their back. The refs know you're not going to take nothing. And it's something to put on tape. So I like it.
I liked it too. And I like the timing of it. We say these last games mean nothing. I like the idea that it can light a fire. Obviously, they didn't win the game last night, which would have been nice if they could have closed it out. They certainly had their chances to do that. But I just, in a game like, if you're going to get thrown out in a game like that.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. And I like the overall message that it sends. You know what? Tristan has earned that call. He has. I know a lot of people look at him and say, well, he's past his prime and all of that. But the guy is hanging on when it'd be very easy for him to just ride into the sunset, take all of the millions that he's earned and give it. But he's not. And he's not mailing it in either. He plays
Played
hard.
his ass off last night.
And he sets the tone. With all the other guys see him going, man, this dude with his older, tired body is out here laying it on the line. He's a great guy to have around. And he's earned that call, and Kenny was absolutely right to do what he did.
He has become the Udonis Haslem of the Cavs.
And every team needs one of those.
And he's the veteran who's been there forever. Yeah, he left for a little while, bounced around to a couple different teams, but they brought him back. He's the veteran in the locker room who fits right in, he's the one dude who has seen all the wars. He's been to the mountaintop. And I wrote about that yesterday that, it's funny when you look at this Cavs team, they brought Donovan here to lead them, right? To be the leader, to be the face of the franchise, and to take them to places that they were not ready to go because they were young and inexperienced. Well, Donovan had never been there either. Like, Donovan never made it out of the second round.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So you go to the coach. Kenny Atkinson, never been out of the first round. Only coached, a very, very brief playoff experience. And I asked Kenny the other night, is this the first team where you legitimately have a chance to win a championship? And he said, oh, yeah. So he's never been there. Tristan is actually the one guy who can be the Sherpa that he's been there. He's seen all the wars.
All of it.
Follow me, kids.
And listen, that everybody has to do it at some point, right? There's a first time for everybody. There's a first time that LeBron made it up the mountain, that Steve Kerr made it up the mountain. There's a first for everything. But guys like Tristan who have seen it all, who have experienced it all, who have been down 3-1 in a series and came back, who have won a championship, really hold value to organizations like this. The Cavs are really, really good, really talented. They're one of the best young teams in the league, but they don't have a ton of guys who can show them how to get there, and that includes their best player, and that includes the head coach in terms of guys who know how to do it, who have been there before. Tristan's one of those guys that have.
And I think I just want them to be able to flip that switch. And, LeBron talks about how, when he went into the playoffs, how he won 0 dark 30. I ain't no tweeting, no nothing. You're not going.
Yeah. He's on all the time.
Hey, but guess what? I like that you lie.
You tried.
Yeah, you tried. Listen, at least
you lied.
At least you got the rhetoric. I need the Cavs to lock one in, and Tristan Thompson could be like, guys, this is playoff mode, bro. Jared Allen. Hey, listen, you're not gonna get a lot of touches, but I need the Jared Allen that's dunking on everybody. I don't want finger rolls and layups. And guys got to get to the point where they understand who the enforcer is, and we need enforcer-type rules and regulations. So Tristan Thompson's voice is automatically elevated during the playoffs because he's the dude that keeps the temperature and letting guys know what they need from game to game, especially because, listen, there's going to be a game. There's going to be a game that we talk about, and we're going to come in here and lose it because the Cavs look terrible, and they might get beat by 30.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Happens all the time in the playoffs.
They might get beat by 30, and we're going to be in here going off.
Orlando smoked them last year in Orlando.
You might lose.
And we were like, whoa.
You might lose. You could lose double digits. You might get beat by 20 points every time you in Boston. But it matters what do you do when you come back. Tristan Thompson.
If you win 4 1-point games in Cleveland, none of that matters.
None of it matters. So he can tell them that he's been there, and he's been there on a lot of those wars where the Cavs, all of the wars, like all of the Cavs' greatest hits from 14 to whenever, he's been there.
This is how good the Cavs are. They played nobody.
Yeah.
And a team that they very well may see in the second round had to go to the last possession to beat them on the road. Cavs are on the road. Pacers are at home.
In a game they had to win.
And again, yeah, and everything on the line for them. And
they
it took
played like it.
everything they had to beat a team of backups.
It looked like Ty Jerome was like.
That's how good this Cavs
Reggie
team
Miller's
is.
talking about Ty Jerome like he was like Mark Price or something. Like
Reggie Miller loved that game last night.
Like,
I think he thought that's the best game he's ever seen.
This was all scoring. That's Reggie.
It was, yeah. But, I mean, he was just like, they were answering threes one after another, and it was just, there was a point there in the fourth quarter where he was like, This is the last game that we're doing this year, and this is the best game we're doing.
What a way to go out, or something like that.
He loved it. He really did.
Let me ask you guys this real quick. The Cavs started last night. Jerome, Merrill, Hunter, Wade, and Allen.
This is a great question.
Just for the sake of let's have some fun with 5 minutes here. If that starting five was the Cavs' starting five this season, Jerome, Merrill, Hunter, Wade, and Allen, how good would the Cavs team be with that starting five? Is that a playoff team?
I think they'd be pushing 500.
They're a playing team.
Yes,
They're in the
I think that's where they would be. They would be like a 38 to 42 win team.
And Allen's numbers would be greatly inflated. Like
they'd have to be.
It would look like he was actually a scorer, but it would just be the fact that he's out there getting putbacks. But like he would average way more than he does now. Hunter looks like a starter. Jerome looks like a starter. They would be pretty good.
I originally, when you asked that question, I'm like, oh, they'd be the Detroit Pistons. And then I looked at the Pistons record, and I'm like, no, I don't think they'd be that good. The one
Detroit
thing
Pistons are 44 and 36 right now.
Yeah, and I think they'd be just below that. The one thing that group lacks is something that every team that's going to be any good at all in the NBA has to have, a star caliber player. And I mean, Jared Allen.
Are you saying Ty Jerome is not capable of being
hold on.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Careful. Walk on eggshells here, Jay.
listen.
Is he a top 30 player?
Hey, listen, if Ty Jerome
When he plays
started,
20 minutes, he's been a top 30 player this season.
if
As
Ty
crazy as that
Jerome
sounds.
started every game, I think Ty Jerome could average 25.
He'd score a lot. He'd have to. Somebody's got to score.
Jason, I think he'd get 25 and 6.
I mean, it depends on who's around him. It depends
Look
if he
at
stays
Kevin
healthy.
Love in Minnesota before he came to Cleveland.
I mean, listen,
Kevin Love was just gathering
He
stats.
has-
I'll take that and that and that. Rebounds and blocks and assists.
and then he got
points.
here was like-
and then he got here with some real players, and they're like, yeah, he's a nice little player.
we'll go to him
He's
the-
a nice piece.
Well, he took a step back.
He did.
He
He
put
did.
a
He
lot
took-
of his game
He
in
did.
his pocket.
He tucked it in.
To
He
fit
tucked
in.
his pocket.
He had to.
Ty Jerome, I'm telling you, listen, the way I be looking at it, they can't stop his slow Euro step. I'm pausing, and then he hits that. He's shooting 43% from three.
It's witchcraft what Ty Jerome is doing.
I know.
I don't have any other explanation.
But you know what, Jay? The longer it goes on, the more I'm like, okay, maybe it is real. But I fell for the Jeremy Lin thing. I did, hard. Now, I'm not comparing the two, but I kept looking at Jeremy Lin going, it's just not there.
Yeah.
It's not there. Eventually, it's going to come out that it's not there. And I think we talked about this on the show a couple of months ago. I think what ultimately happened with Jeremy Lin was he was in the absolute perfect situation for him in New York. Perfect. And once that devolved and then he moved on, we were like, oh, man, this guy's
he was
not
a
very
decent player. He never rose to the level of that Linsanity run.
Linsanity.
Yeah, and
That's
part
what
of
I'm
it
talking about.
Part of it was the market. A big part of it was the market he was in too. That guy
but
added quite a bit
went
of
on
gas
for a
to it.
lot longer than I thought it could.
Imagine Ty Jerome in New York this year, what they would be saying.
Oh, they'd be fitting him for the Hall of Fame, Jack.
Think about it. Listen, the last 4 games, he had 25, 20, 18, and 24. He had 24 and 6 last night and only played 26 minutes.
You gonna start him?
When? In the playoffs?
Yeah.
I'll stop him, man. You trying to get
Well, I'm just saying.
No,
I mean, you're reading out numbers.
No,
like,
I'm just saying, if he played and he started and he was getting 32 minutes a game.
He's Colin Sexton.
yeah,
I have been trying.
that's probably
I
what he
have
is.
been trying. Jason's known this has been in the backworks for a while. I'm hoping it happens next week because the Cavs finally practice at home. But I have a story set up with Ty Jerome to do a little deep dive into how, frankly, Ty gets off some of these shots and how he's taught other guys on the Cavs that deceleration step that G alluded to earlier that now Evan Mobley uses to the maximum capacity, and other guys on the team have kind of developed, and it's just been a scheduling conflict trying to figure out. They've practiced 3 days in 46. Practices in 46
He is
days
the
they've been home,
godfather
so
of the slow Euro
it's
step.
in the works, G. It's in the works trying to
telling
figure
you.
out the origin of that slow step that has kind of taken over the NBA.
He's a nice weapon to have in the playoffs. He is a really nice weapon to have. And who knows? He might be the X factor. I don't know. We'll find out.
He could win you a playoff game or two. I'm serious.
I think he can too.
Absolutely.
I don't know if he can win you a series.
It's exactly what I said a couple weeks ago. He could be the difference in a game.
Yeah.
He's not the difference in a series.
Yeah, I would agree.
Is he the best role player they had? He's better than Delly?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What he can do
This year?
Yeah.
What he's doing this year?
makes
Yes.
Delly look like a
Yeah.
I mean,
12th man.
Delly, God bless him. He got every ounce of
Did anybody
talent
play harder
out of
than
him.
Delly?
No.
Probably
the
not.
man got carried off on a stretcher.
I know
He left
he
the
did.
arena in an ambulance.
Legitimately.
Yes.
Legitimately. Not
Yes.
like a LeBron carry-off.
He
where he's back in 4 minutes,
he gave-
dunking.
He left the arena in an ambulance.
He gave his life points. That man's he cut about 25 minutes off his life. Like
He was max effort.
That's
Talk
it.
about having no breaks.
And I've never seen this in my life. This is why I can't compare the two. Do you know that during that year, the Cavs, I believe, lost the first game. They came back and won in Golden State, the second one, and then came back in Game 3 and won again.
Yeah.
With Delly and Bron.
Yep. They were up 2-1 in that series. And you know what?
Jeez.
I walked off the floor. I walked to the back, and Griff was back there shaking his head. You'd think he'd be elated, and Griff was shaking his head. And I was like, what? And he goes, we're effed.
They ain't got no more.
He said they figured it out with Steph. Steph has figured it out. We're in trouble. And he was right. And they didn't win it. They didn't win another game.
And
the
it
rest
wasn't
of the
even
series.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was wild.
Fond memories of Delly, though.
Yeah. Listen.
Quickly, I know we're going to go to another topic. I just want to throw this out there because it's happening in 2 minutes.
So we're going to do Super Chats. So we got a minute
Okay,
or two before we do Super Chats.
Kent State product, Corey Connors. I think he was third at the Masters yesterday. He was tied with Scotty Scheffler, who's the defending champ and the favorite to win it this year.
I didn't see that.
He shot 4 under par. I want to say he was like a 2014 or 2013 Kent State guy. But if I know we don't love golf here, I love it, and I don't talk it because I know that nobody wants to hear me talk it. But I love golf. I can't get enough of it. If you just want to keep, if you want a rooting interest in this year's Masters, and who doesn't, follow Corey. I don't think he can sustain that.
Yeah.
A lot of guys can fire one really good round at Augusta.
Yeah.
It's the champions that can fire 4,
Right.
and that's what it's going to take.
Right.
So I don't think he can sustain it. But it's fun. It's a fun story. He's teeing off his second round in 30 seconds. So
If he hangs around today and go into the weekend, we'll have some fun.
that's the key. Just get into the weekend,
Yeah.
and you know what? Let it all hang out and see
Yep.
what happens. So good luck to Corey. He's actually from Ottawa. He's from Canada, but he played his college golf here.
Shout out to him. Good luck. We got some Super Chats. You guys ready for some Super Chats here before we head over to WKYC? First one comes from Armac Dog, who said, I posted on the barbershop that the Browns should sign Cousins or Flacco as their quarterback 1. Draft Hunter with the 2nd pick. Milroe at 33. Best available running back and edge with 67th and 94th picks. Look like it's coming.
Look, they stole your whole playbook.
They took it from Armac Dog. Next up, Eddie Everhart, our guy Eddie, who says the Browns now have 2 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks on the roster.
And 4 more championships after the NFL.
Yeah, this is crazy. Here we go. That's
Is Terry Bradshaw available? He's got some rings. Bring him in.
Yeah, no kidding.
Is he still over there? Terry Bradshaw?
At Fox?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Still
I thought he retired. I thought he just retired.
Unless he's not going to do it this coming year. He had a lot of illness last year, but he was still doing it last year.
I thought maybe I thought that was Lee Corso. I don't know. Yeah, I thought
Next up, Set Apart Lad says we might as well bring all the old coaches back then too.
Which ones?
AVP, Stump Mitchell, Bill
Only
Callahan.
if it's Freddie. If you want to bring Freddie back, I'm good with that.
Oh,
Kitchens?
Oh,
God.
absolutely.
Jason, as someone who covers the team, before I get to the last Super Chat, what would be your, if they had to, so obviously this is a hypothetical world. Who would be your favorite coach they brought back, and who would you be most upset if they brought back?
I mean, that's a loaded question.
Freddie and Freddie.
I thought you was going to ask the correct question was, since 1999, which coach did the Cleveland Browns fire? Which one would you reboot it with?
I know that one
Mike
easily.
Pettin.
Everybody says that usually.
Eric Mangini.
That'd be the other one.
Yep.
Those are the two.
Pettin
Pettin and
and
Mangini
Yep.
are the two that I think were actual head coach material. That
Eric said he
probably-
wants to come on too, so we're going to get Eric on.
Please, yes,
Yeah.
yes, would love that.
Freddie was an absolute disaster as a head coach. An absolute
wasn't he fun?
disaster. I mean,
It was fun in a painful way.
Hey man, Greg,
Like you're watching things, you're like, my cousin's coaching the Browns. Look at him.
That Greg Williams last 7 games, boy, that was a fun time.
Yeah, that
Greg.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's one of only 3 men that have a winning record as a coach of the Browns.
Yeah.
and then he got an interview at 9 a.m. on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
That's how you knew he was not a viable candidate.
Bye.
People was calling the radio stations. Why Greg Williams? Why don't they give him? They was laughing like, nah, dog. We gonna bring you in. They actually brought him in under the Rooney rule, and he was white.
Does he count? Does Greg count?
We're gonna use you as the Rooney rule. We weren't gonna hire you anyway, dog.
9
He
a.m.
got the same
interview.
consideration.
You got the
New
same
Year's
joint.
Day.
Last super chat comes from Jeff's Bookshelf, who says, Will Howard in Pittsburgh is going to bite us forever. I
Yep.
just have that gut feeling.
It'd be Ben Part 2. Hey, laugh at your own peril.
Are you saying Will Howard is going to be Big Ben? Is that what are you standing on that?
Here's what I'm standing on. If we don't take him and Pittsburgh does, the football gods demand that he win at least one Super Bowl there. That's how
And it'll
that
be the
goes
one
for
that's
us.
played in Cleveland.
God, dude. You just wrote my. That'd be the last day. That would be my last day as a football fan.
If the Steelers win the Super Bowl in Cleveland.
Here, I'm out with him. Okay.
I mean, I would do a lot. I mean, anything short of animal sacrifices, do not let that happen. No.
But that's the way it goes. I mean, that's our luck. That is our luck.
That's nasty.
Or the
Once we
Ravens.
move the
What if the
stadium
Ravens win
off
the
the
Super Bowl
Indian
in
burial
Cleveland?
ground over here at the lakefront, maybe our fortunes will change.
I mean, the Ravens winning the Super Bowl in Cleveland would be worse. That'd be worse than the Steelers. That's
Would
your
it?
old team. Yes.
Wait, let's ask that question. Would it?
That's your old team.
So what
But I hate the Steelers more.
Do you really? More than the Ravens?
Oh, I hate the Steelers more.
They're equal.
See, I
for
go
different
back to
reasons.
Turkey Joe Jones and
Yeah.
Terry Bradshaw and.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen the video clip of a Steelers home game at Three Rivers Stadium where I think it was Lynn Swann, after catching, I think a touchdown pass or maybe it was incompletion, but it was a go route, he had to jump over a car
Cars?
that was parked in the end zone.
What is up? It
It was like literally 5 yards from the end
I think
zone.
that clip is actually on our group chat at one point. Why are there cars on the football field?
That's what
We've come a long way from the
we have
70s.
come a lot. That would not pass muster today.
Coming up on WKYC, we'll talk about what they're going to do with the old stadium. What are you going to do with it? Implode it?
Please.
All right, we'll see you in 3 minutes on KYC and WKYC Plus.
Turn
Knock
it
it
into
into
a
the
concert
water.
venue.